Yo, what's up guys? AFC Adino here and welcome to a new video. Um, Today is the day because a lot of you have been asking for this. I'm going to give you guys my competitive analysis on Suicune. Because a lot of you guys have been wondering, how do you play this mon? How do you play against this mon? And this is something I want to cover today in this video. So basically the topics of today are a little overview of Suicune. So I'm going to talk a bit about Suicune and his stats, his sets, etc. Then I'm going to cover his two most common sets that are used. Basically explaining, giving you an example set, giving you an EV spread as well. And thirdly, we are going to talk about the team building part of Suicune, what synergy he has, and how you can team build with Suicune. And lastly, I'm going to talk about how you can counter Suicune or play against Suicune or just keep him in check. Those are the topics we are going to cover today. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, definitely hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel as well if you'd like to see more Pokemon PvP content. I have PvP battles, I have guides, I have competitive analysis, and obviously I have a lot of tips as well, so definitely a good place to be if you want to improve in Pokemon PvP. But yeah, without further ado guys, let's hop right into it. I'm gonna have some gameplay in the background. Okay, like I mentioned in the intro, we're going to start with a overview on Suicune. So I'm basically going to talk a bit about Suicune. Well, Suicune takes a central role in PokeMMO PvP battles due to its strong attributes. Its remarkable defensive abilities makes it a force to be reckoned with. Its usage stat is going to become insane, guys. Suicune is usually preferred on balanced or semi-stall teams, but he can also be used in bulky offensive setups. And yeah, Suicune's toughness combined with his moves like Calm Mind and Scald can be a real challenge for unprepared opponents. Its resilience lets it often survive single attacks. After using Calm Mind, even moves that should be super effective become less threatening. Think about moves like Thunderbolt. Scald's ability to burn enemies worries physical attackers, as burns make it hard for physical attackers to beat Suicune because their damage got cut in half. And yeah, feeling helpless as a Calm Mind Suicune sweeps through your team because you can't knock it out is truly one of the worst feelings. Once all the checks and counters have been dealt with, Suicune becomes an amazing late game sweeper. But yeah, why does Suicune fit so well in defensive teams? This is due to his ability called Pressure. It's a key reason Suicune fits so well on defensive teams. With Pressure, Suicune can stall out offensive Pokemon by pressuring their important moves like Dracometer and Close Combat. This ability also helps Suicune outlast defensive Pokemon that it cannot easily beat. Think about bulky water types. Since Suicune is mostly using Scald, think about the chances. Even though Suicune cannot directly beat them easily, he can outlast them by the use of Pressure. But that's basically my overview on Suicune. Let's talk about a few of the most common Suicune sets. There are typically only two sets that Suicune uses, and each set requires a different nature. The first set is called the CroCune set. This set benefits from a bold nature and centers around moves like Calm Mind, Rest, and Scald. The second set is the Pressure Stall set, which relies on a timid nature. It focuses on moves like Substitute, Protect, and Scald. While there can be slight variations in both sets, they often remain quite similar. If you face a CroCune set, they typically have the same 4 moves, but sometimes one move is different. If you face the Pressure Stall set, they typically have the same 4 moves, but one move might be different. Let me show you the most common example of the most used set, the CroCune set. Okay, the first one, the CroCune set. Like I said, this is just an example set. You don't have to play it like this. But just to give you some guidelines. We use a bold nature to improve our defense against physical attacks. We invest 100 points in speed to outpace an adamant scissor with max attack and max speed. This is important because it gives us an opportunity to burn Scissor using Scald before it can land a move like Close Combat or U-Turn. Jolly Scissor will outspeed this though, but the most common one is Adamant, of course, and a lot of Scissors do run max speed these days. But yeah, this setup is particularly powerful because it isn't greatly affected by status conditions, because we can use Rest and still attack using Sleep Talk. The next one is the Pressure Stall set. This is actually my favorite Suicune set. And like I mentioned in the other one, this is just an example set. Feel free to change whatever you want, but I just wanted to give you some guidelines to help you play Suicune. The main purpose here is to pressure stall your opponent. Speed matters a lot, so we want to create a substitute before the opponent can attack us. That's why we pick the Timid Nature. Remember, when they attack, it's like they're using 2 moves. This applies also to status moves that affect your team, like Stealth Rock and Toxic. The move Protect is important too, because it helps us stall PP from the opponent and gives us recovery from leftovers. And this matters a lot because Suicune can't recover in other ways with his setup. Since Suicune is naturally sturdy, many defensive Pokemon will struggle to break its substitute. This gets even better when you combine it with the special defense boost from Calm Mind. Once the opponent can't easily break the substitute, Suicune can start sweeping. We put 220 points into speed, so we're faster than max speed Togekiss. This helps us stall Togekiss even if it gets stronger with a few Calm Minds or Nasty Plots. Because we can stall out the air slashes with pressure. With 228 HP, we make sure Chansey can break our substitute with Seismic Toss. The rest of our points go into special defense, because after just one Calm Mind, Pokemon like Amoonguss and Rotom find it very difficult to break our substitute. Amoonguss has only a 6.3% chance to break it using Giga Drain, and Rotom Wash has a 37% chance to break it using Volt Switch, which are definitely in our favor to not break. So that's why this set will work really well against defensive Pokemon, since we can abuse them with Substitute. But yeah, those are the Suicune sets. Let's talk about the team building part and some synergy with Suicune. Synergy and team building. Well guys, in my experience I've noticed that the CroCune set is simpler to fit into a team. It can work as both a defensive wall and a sweeper. On the other hand, the pressure stall version isn't as suitable for being a defensive wall due to its lack of dependable recovery. However, if the pressure stall set can get safely behind a substitute, its ability to sweep becomes much greater than a CroCune set. But yeah, let's talk about some key points, some key members when you think about team building with Suicune. While Suicune can definitely take on a defensive role, its primary function is that of a sweeper. Just like any other sweeper, Suicune benefits from having a powerful wall breaker on its team as well. Examples are Choice Band Tyranitar, Choice Band Scissor, Nasty Plot Hydreigon, Flame Orb Conkeldurr, Guts Conkeldurr, and Life Orb Infernape. Even though Suicune's water typing is one of the best defensive typings in the game, there are still 2 major weaknesses. Those weaknesses are electric attacks and grass type attacks. So Suicune really needs Pokemon that can deal with these kind of attacks. Examples of Pokemon that can deal with grass type attacks are Amoonguss, Weezing, Crobat, Skarmory, Volcarona. Examples of Pokemon that can deal with electric type attacks are Gliscor, Garchomp, Gastrodon, Ferrothorn, Amoonguss. Even though Suicune does have recovery options available, both of them can sometimes be quite unreliable. Protect only restores 6.5% of its HP, assuming there's no Sandstorm. On the other hand, Rest puts us to sleep, and then we have to rely on Sleep Talk to use our preferred attack. To minimize passive damage, it's important to have hazard removal and a way to absorb status conditions. Examples of hazard removers are Mandibuzz, Gliscor, Rotom, Donphan, and Golbat. Examples of status absorbers are Gliscor, Ferrothorn, Chansey, Reuniclus, Amoonguss. We also want to make our opponent think twice about switching out their Pokemon. This might happen if they're trying to stall our moves or switch to a Pokemon that can counter us as well. So having entry hazard support is really important and is going to help us a lot. Examples of entry hazard setters are Ferrothorn, Gliscor, Garchomp, Skarmory, Hydreigon, and Weezing. Suicune usually isn't the Pokemon that will stop your opponent's sweep unless it runs Roar, but this limits his sweeping potential due to lacking Sleep Talk. Having Pokemon that can still deal with Pokemon who raise their stats by outspeeding or using their bulk is something Suicune appreciates as well. Examples of fast Pokemon are Weavile, Scarf Garchomp, Scarf Infernape, Sash Dugtrio, Crobat. Examples of bulky Pokemon are Mandibuzz, Multiskill Dragonite, Unaware Clefable, Chansey, Gliscor. These are all options you can use when trying to team build with Suicune. Now let's talk about how you can counter Suicune or keep him in check. How to counter Suicune and keep him in check. Basically, when countering Suicune, you'll mainly have to think about these two Suicune sets. Both sets take different measures. However, there are some Pokemon that can deal with both sets. Some general things you have to consider when choosing a Pokemon to counter Suicune. Your Pokemon cannot rely on low PP moves like Close Combat to break its substitute. Your Pokemon has to be faster than Suicune to prevent getting Scald Burned or PP stalled. Your Pokemon has to be durable enough to live a +1 or +2 Scald. And even though it might look like it, these Pokemon are not counters or checks on their own. Gastrodon. Even though Suicune doesn't touch him, Gastrodon can't do anything back and will just get PP stalled. Suicune can substitute to prevent being status, and CroCune can rest and PP stall by not attacking. Chansey. Even though Scald doesn't do much, even at +6 it doesn't do it KO. Chansey won't get value from using Toxic as CroCune will rest it away, and the other set will just use Substitute. Amoonguss. Once Suicune has used a Calm Mind, Amoonguss will do very little damage and eventually get stalled out of Giga Drain. After Calm Mind, Amoonguss doesn't really break the Substitute with Giga Drain, so that's why you will get stalled out. And CroCune can use Sleep Talk on Spore, while the other sets can prevent it by using Substitute. And yeah, Amoonguss will eventually run out of Giga Drains against both sets. Now let me talk about some examples of Pokemon that can beat both the CroCune and the Pressure Stall set. Suicune Counter 1, Toxicroak. Suicune faces a tough challenge against Toxicroak due to its Dry Skin ability. Suicune's main move is Scald, and this doesn't work well against Toxicroak because Toxicroak will actually heal if Suicune attacks Toxicroak. Toxicroak can also boost its strength with moves like Sword Stance and Bulk Up. Adding to this, Toxicroak is often faster than Suicune because Suicune doesn't usually run max speed. They do have the same base speed stat, but typically Suicune is not fully invested into speed. This speed difference is important because Toxicroak can hit Suicune before it can set up a substitute, or can use Rest. Suicune Counter 2, Crobat. Because Crobat is naturally faster than Suicune, it can use moves like Toxic and Taunt before Suicune can react. This can give Suicune a really difficult time. Moreover, Crobat's Infiltrator's ability lets it hit Suicune when it's hiding behind a substitute. Once the substitute Suicune is affected by a status condition, it won't be able to remove it by itself, putting him on a timer. Suicune counter 3 Hydreigon. Due to his dragon typing, he has a resistance to water attacks. His speed stat allows him to outspeed both Suicune sets, which means he can use Taunt before they can react. Hydreigon has a move pool which can be troublesome for Suicune, in combination with Taunt of course. These moves are Nasty Plot, Toxic, and he can even use Roost to do this consistently. Suicune counter 4 Superior. Superior needs Giga Drain alongside Leaf Storm though to deal with the substitute variant, otherwise Suicune will stall out all the Leaf Storms with pressure. Superior also has access to Taunt, which goes through the substitute, which means Suicune can only use Scald, which is resisted by Superior. Giga Drain also heals Superior, and we can use Toxic as well if we really need it over Glare, for example. Suicune counter 5 Jolteon, Raikou, and Rotom Wash. Jolteon and Raikou can use Calm Mind, while Rotom Wash can use Nasty Plot. They can do this alongside Suicune if Suicune tries to Calm Mind up. Because if both Pokemon get to +6, then obviously the electric types are going to outdamage the Suicune. That's how they can win against him. However, they don't like to get Scald burned, because Suicune can go for a Scald and then switch out. Yeah, Jolteon and Raikou don't have any recovery. Rotom Wash does have Pain Split as a recovery though. And the last tactic would probably be PvP stalling, which can be done against both sets as well. But this can only be done by combining at least 2 Pokemon. The condition is that both Pokemon can survive multiple Scalds. So for example, using Water Absorb or any other immunity to water like Storm Drain or Dry Skin. Or use a Pokemon with a resistance to water and a regenerator ability like Among Us and Slowking. Because if you can freely switch between these Pokemon, then Suicune has to attack while you don't use any PP, which means Suicune gets PP stalled. Like I mentioned before, both sets take different measures, so I'm going to talk about a few specific measures for each set, starting with the CroCune set. Counters and checks to the CroCune set. These Pokemon usually get PP stalled by the Pressure Stall Suicune. Ferrothorn. The combination Knockoff plus Leech Seed makes it really difficult for Suicune to sweep due to its amazing bulk and the resistance to water type attacks. Scald won't do too much damage even at +6, while Suicune doesn't get leftovers recovery because it got knocked off, and Leech Seed does damage to Suicune all the time, and if Ferrothorn is running Protect as well alongside Leech Seed, he gains recovery while extra damage and while stalling out extra Scalds from the Suicune. However, like I mentioned, the Ferrothorn set will get PP stalled by the Pressure Stall set, because Substitute Protect is just going to stall out all the Gyro Balls from Ferrothorn. Reuniclus. Reuniclus can Calm Mind plus Psyshock, which makes it really easy to 1v1 CroCune. Reuniclus negates Suicune's extra damage due to the special defense raise from Calm Mind, but it's still able to do the bonus damage on Suicune because Psyshock does physical damage. The Magic Guard ability also negates the burn damage, so Reuniclus will always get leftovers recovery. Reuniclus does get PP stalled on Psyshock though against the Pressure Stall set with Substitute and Protect. Bloom. Both Technician and Poison Heal will do great versus Suicune. Adamant max speed is typically faster than CroCune and will be able to get an attack off before Suicune can get a Scald Burn. Technician boosted Bullet Seeds are going to hurt a lot, especially with a Life Orb or Choice Band. Poison Heal Breloom can bulk up or Swords Dance and hit really hard back. The resistance to water lets us take less damage from Scald, and due to the Poison Heal, we cannot get burned. Breloom can also do great against the Pressure Stall set, but the Pressure Stall set could potentially get a Scald Burn, which is going to limit the Breloom. Now let's talk about some counters and checks to the Pressure Stall set. Counters and checks to the Pressure Stall set. CroCune is one of the counters. This might sound funny, but CroCune can use rest. When asleep, no PP will be used, while the substitute Suicune has to choose an attack, which means he's going to run out of PP faster than a CroCune set. Toxic Spikes. This Suicune set can never come in when Toxic Spikes are up, because the poison will outdamage the leftovers healing, putting Suicune on a timer. Remember, the Pressure Stall set doesn't have any other recovery in its kit. Jellicent. Water absorbed Jellicent is immune to Scald and can use Taunt. Remember guys, Taunt goes through Substitute. Jellicent cannot beat Suicune with damage, but can stall out Scalds since Suicune will be forced to use Scald after getting taunted. The Cursed Body set can work as well, because the combination Taunt and Cursed Body makes Suicune use Struggle. Lastly, Raw Damage. Remember guys, the substitute set is not as durable as CroCune, so Pokemon that are faster can have a lot of impact. Garchomp, Pienshao, Salamence. If you can damage the Suicune to a low enough point in which he cannot use substitute freely, Suicune will be less likely to sweep. So every bit of chip damage is going to matter on the Pressure Stall set. That's how you can beat it. I have two final tips against Suicune. If Suicune doesn't get the burn, then he can easily get overpowered because he has unreliable recovery. The one is Protect, which only heals leftovers recovery, and the other one is Rest, which puts him asleep, meaning you can get free attacks off, or when you attack it's going to matter a lot. The next tip is sweepers that can avoid or don't mind the burn can overpower Suicune. If they are set up before Suicune comes in, they can avoid the burn by using substitute, or they don't mind the burn if they have something like Poison Heal because they cannot get burned. But yeah, there are obviously, well, let me give you an example. For example, Swords Dance Gliscor will not get 2-hit KO'd by an unboosted Scald, while a +2 Earthquake is going to do a lot of damage. It's definitely gonna 3-hit KO Suicune. And yeah, there are obviously way more things that can deal with both Suicunes, but hopefully I've given you some ideas on how you can deal with Suicune. This is basically my analysis on Suicune, guys. Lastly, I will give you guys a conclusion, and I'm going to rate Suicune myself. You are still watching, that means you watched till the end, so thank you for that and thank you for the support. We are going to conclude the video. So in short, Suicune is a strong and hard to defeat Pokemon in the game. It's good at using Calm Mind and has strong defenses. Not many strong grass and electric Pokemon are used right now. I mean, offensive grass and electric Pokemon. So Suicune is even more valuable. It is also the only Pokemon that can reliably PP stall opponents due to his bulk. Because of all this, I give Suicune an S rating in the current PokeMMO PvP OU meta game, because every team now needs to prepare for Suicune. That's basically it for the video. I really hope it was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Definitely hit that like button. I put a lot of effort into this video, so subscribe to the channel as well if you'd like to see more. And leave a comment down below if you have any questions. You can also check out my Patreon if you are interested in some of my Suicune teams. And join our Discord server if you'd like to discuss this game. Sorry guys. Yeah, with that all being said, I hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you guys next time.